Hey there, guys. How you doing? It's Liam here from Bionic Viking, and welcome to my final thoughts video on Destiny. I played the PlayStation 4 version, but I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same, depending on, it doesn't matter which console you get it on. Today I'll be talking about a bunch of different stuff. The four main points I'm focusing on is the art and graphical capability of the game, the gameplay, the story, and the multiplayer. Right now, you're watching a game of mine that I had earlier today on the Venus map, Shores of Time, and it's kind of fast paced. There's a lot of shotgun action, and yeah, I thought it'd be good to put in the background. So to start off, I'm gonna bump this head on. Since it is on a next gen console, everyone's gonna care about the art and the graphical capability and how shiny it looks and so on. It looks pretty good. I mean, I've played it for, I guess, how long did it? Yeah, like almost a month now. About like 10 days, short of a month. And yeah, it's been really consistent as far as the frame rate goes. It's looked really smooth all the way through. And then where, there are sharp things, it's sharp too. But it's really similar to Halo. I mean, if you liked Halo, it's a lot of the similar kind of Spartan suits, although when you get into the later levels, some of the markings on the pieces of armor look badass. But yeah, like as far as character art, it looks pretty much very similar to Halo, especially if you're a Titan class. They have those big shield head things. The environments in this game, especially in the player versus environment PvE area where you travel from planet to planet in the game, is very diverse. I mean, when you get to the moon for the first time, that was the first time I realized that this game it felt next gen to me. And I felt like, this is something that would not be capable in the slightest. Like one chunk of this planet I'm on would not be possible on a PS3 or, in a previous console. So, yeah, that was definitely good. And then for the multiplayer maps, they visit each of those individual planets, and it's just set in that setting for that multiplayer map. There's actually initially when I picked up this game, I thought it was going to be a bit more of an MMO than it was. But surprisingly, the maps are still like gigantic. I mean, when you get onto the moon once again, like that entire you'll get stuck with loading screens like every maybe like 2 or 3 times you play. But like, and I mean sessions, like 3 hour sessions, you hit a loading screen like just out of the blue because the preloading wasn't done well or whatever it is. But these are pretty large landscapes, and they're all high quality. They all look really good. So in my books, this game like really looks good. It's really polished, and I mean, like the particle effects work, all the abilities. There are indicators that look great. So, for example, that when I sprint with my Titan, if I'm sprinting for a long enough a time, a large enough amount of time, I basically get like a power punch ability, and you can see that when the air runs past your HUD. But and there's an example of what it does. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as graphics go. I mean, it's a really pretty game to look at, but that isn't everything about a game. Getting to gameplay, which is really what I find to be the most rewarding part of any game. So as far as the gameplay goes, it controls really well. That's the first thing you know about this game. There are like every class has a different flying ability or whatever it is, but regardless, it controls really, really well. It works sound. I mean, I used to, coming from Call of Duty, I was used to push down the right stick in order to melee, but now I've just, even when I play, zombies or whatever it is, I played zombies like 3 days ago, and I was hitting R1 like the whole time. So yeah, it was a bit weird. I've gotten really used to playing Destiny, but as far as the gameplay goes, it's just a really I don't know. I've had a lot of fun with it. There are really cool boss fights all throughout the game, as far as even through raids or story missions, whatever it is. There are really cool boss fights, and this game surprised me in places where I didn't think it would. It did kind of full. I think my expectation of the game was very different to what it ended up actually being. But nonetheless, it's turned out to be a pretty fun game. But the only problem in the gameplay style, the only big issue I have is that it all seems to be very similar style-wise. I mean, throughout the entire story, pretty much every mission you do, it's you take the ghost thing, the little robot flying thing that you take around with you, and you plant it somewhere so it can hack something, and then you just protect it. Now, although it is voiced by Peter Dinklage, and that does redeem it a fair bit, it still gets a bit old after, I don't know, like about 10 levels of that stuff. It can get a bit old. But, it's still fun. Like, there was never a moment where I was like, oh, God, I don't feel like playing this because of this. It's just, I really would have loved it if there were different elements of gameplay included. Moving on from gameplay is story. Now, the game's story was one place where I felt like it fell flat, but another thing is they marketed this as an MMO, so I wasn't really expecting like an amazingly in-depth story, or I was just expecting filler. However, didn't really turn out to be like a super MMO, where you're all logging into the same place. I think each tower session, which is a little hub that you go to, is limited to 20 people. So not as MMO as I was expecting. But it's just the story falls flat in the way of it's not really engaging storytelling. I mean, most of the time I was paying attention to cutscenes, and I was paying attention to certain parts of the game. Well, pretty much like all cutscenes and all parts of the game, I had subtitles on. But it just didn't really. The whole time I was like, why are we doing this again? It would mention like, you're doing it for the queen, or you have to, whatever it is, and you'll go and meet with the queen or whatever it is. And you just still will be like, all right, I kind of understand, but why is this important? Like, why should I give a fuck? And on top of that, there's like little to no character development of the guy that you are. But I guess that's because there are millions of Guardians in the storyline, so you're not meant to be overly unique. But you say a couple words like throughout the entire story, and yeah, so overall, the story just feels like throughout the entire game, you're just kind of completing repetitive tasks for little to no reason. The only real tip I could say on this front would be to mix it up and throw different elements of gameplay and provide more detail into the actual story. Like, give us some reasons why, give us some history to the world of Destiny. Give us some richness to it. But yeah, no, that as far as story goes, that's pretty much it. And finally, the multiplayer, which is where I've spent, I think, probably the majority of my time. I've spent a long fucking time in the Crucible, man, which is what they call the PvP element of this game. And one of the greatest things about the PvP element is it rewards you as far as gear and experience and all of that just as well, if not better, than PvE elements of the game. Now, some people have complained about this, like, oh, well, I'm doing story missions, so I should get better loot. But if you really think about it, I mean, when you're in a player versus player environment, having like that competitive edge, and you can still get a lot better items from raiding. There is little that you can compete with when you're going strictly PvP. But when you are versing PvP, I mean, most of the time you're running into some pretty good players. And a lot of the people by this point are very high level because they've been playing a lot of Destiny. And that guy just got pwned by my Titan ability. So, and I think he was level 28, proving my point. But overall, man, multiplayer is fun. It's balanced. I mean, it's incredibly balanced compared to some stuff that I've played in the past. There are like little nitpicks, but you're gonna get that when you have 3 different classes in the game. Overall, man, I'm just like the multiplayer really surprised me. I thought this was going to be a very highly focused PvE game, but then Bungie, I mean, they made fucking Halo, man. Like they're not gonna sell short on the beautiful multiplayer aspects that they brought into I guess 4 or 5 Halo games, if you count ODST, which is really just story, and Reach. But I think they've done a pretty good job, making sure that it's all rewarding, making sure that, whether you decide to play multiplayer or, well, I guess either way you're playing multiplayer, but competitive multiplayer or cooperative multiplayer, you can find rewards, you can level up, you can still, experience the same pacing either way. So that's pretty much it as far as my overall thoughts. I have three, I guess, like overall places where I would have loved to see things change a little, some improvement suggestions, even though the game's out. I mean, I feel like there are some things that they could improve because there will be a sequel to Destiny with its ridiculous success. Or hopefully they'll just keep patching in for like a year and it'll be sweet. But yeah, so overall, I'd say provide more diversely styled missions, and I'd love to see that in the future if they release any more raids or whatever it is. Lastly, I'd love to see some more diversity between classes, but that's something that we can look forward to in the new expansion pack and so on. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This has been my final thoughts on Destiny. Go out and pick up the game if you were a fan of Halo. If you were a fan of Halo, I can promise you will enjoy this game even just a little bit. And I'll see you guys in the next video.